Our main story tonight concerns the police. The main thing Steven Seagal pretends to be, aside from a guy whose hair is naturally black. I'm sorry, but the only way you get that colour is by dunking your head into a vat of printer ink. Specifically, we're going to talk about a particular tool police use that is responsible for, among other things, this incredible story.
A shocking scene for kids at a Chuck E. Cheese. 1 minute, they are just having fun, and then all of a sudden, police rush in and put Chuck E. Cheese in handcuffs.
We're gonna detain the mouse here. We are. 539, we have 1 to 10. Okay, he's a suspect. He stole someone's card here and has been using it. Someone that was one of your employees, like last week or something like that. So, yeah.
Wow, there is a lot going on there. From the kids screaming, "Chucky, no!" to the phrase, "We're going to detain the mouse, dude," which sounds like what an ICE agent would say if Fievel tried to immigrate to America today. That arrest is one of many videos we've only been able to see thanks to police body cameras, the devices that give us a nipples-eye view of law enforcement's interactions with the public. They are ubiquitous now, but body cams are still fairly new. As recently as 2013, only a third of police departments had them, but by 2020, 79% of officers reported working in departments with body-worn cameras, to the point it's been said that they represent the largest new investment in policing in a generation. And body cams have been viewed as a popular solution to problems regarding transparency in law enforcement, which may be why a key Democratic demand right now for ending the shutdown of funding to DHS involves this catchy phrase.
We want there to be masks off, body cameras on.
Masks off, body cameras on.
We want masks off, body cameras on.
Stirring stuff. That is the leader of the opposition there, and that is truly the best he's got. Honestly, you could set a white noise machine to fiery Chuck Schumer speech and get a full 8 hours. And the truth is, body cams can seem like a great tool for increasing accountability and building trust, and cops themselves tend to value them too, though for slightly different reasons than the rest of us, as for them, it's more about reducing frivolous or false complaints. In fact, according to a 2018 survey, while just 34% of local police and sheriff's offices said they acquired body-worn cameras to reduce use of force, nearly 80% wanted them in order to do things like improve officer safety, increase evidence quality, reduce civilian complaints, and reduce agency liability. And look, ideally, you could have all of those things. In fact, as this police captain in Virginia sees it, the best-case scenario for body cams is them improving everyone's behaviour.
When a camera is present, everyone acts a little bit better. So perhaps this is an opportunity for us to de-escalate an incident. If something is very, very escalated, it'll be a reminder to everyone involved, to include the officers and the public, that a camera is present, and hopefully that we all are acting a little bit better, a little more civil to each other.
Well, that certainly sounds nice, doesn't it? Although, when a camera's present, everyone acts a bit better, is an observation from someone who clearly doesn't watch reality TV. A world in which a camera's presence is your cue to throw a glass of Pinot Grigio into someone's face and call them a whore in the middle of a nice restaurant. Still, that notion that body cams can be a way of calming down interactions with law enforcement is appealing, and it may be why it seems we're about to slap them on the chest of all ICE agents across the country in the name of accountability. But the thing is, the more you look into body cams, the more you realise they are only effective if they are used properly, and in many cases, they are just not. So given that tonight, let's talk about body cams. And let's start with the fact that straight away, there are certain limitations to what they can tell us, as because of their field of view, they can't capture the full context of everything going on. And while I think you probably already get that, just watch as this Today Show reporter demonstrates it in the weirdest possible way.
Seth is putting on a body camera. My producer, Giovanna, is off to the side, shooting from a distance on her iPhone to give us the complete picture, like a bystander would. Scenario 1, something Seth calls deceptive intensity. Watch this body camera footage closely. What's happening here? All right, now let's look from the bystander's iPhone. That's right, no brawl here, just really bad dancing.
OK, I will admit that demonstration was effective, because the body cam footage did look like a violent brawl, when we now know they were in fact doing a Richard Simmons workout at each other. And that's not the only weird demonstration like that.
Interpretation can be very misleading. For example, you, the viewer at home, can only see me from the chest up. You have no idea what's in my hand. However, the view from a second camera may show that I'm holding what appears to be a gun, when in reality, I'm just holding a flashlight.
OK, I'll be honest, that felt less like a local news segment and more like the routine of the world's worst birthday magician. Gather round, kids, for my first trick. You probably think I have a gun in my hand, but it's actually a flashlight. What's that? Your parents want their money back? No problem. Here's their money. Or is it actually another flashlight? But those examples, while ridiculous, do show how hard it can be to interpret what's captured on video. But the audio can be deceptive as well. Take this example from Florida, where the shouts of officers wound up shaping a very misleading narrative.
Officers were wearing body-worn cameras, and they were chasing after an individual.
He walked over to the sidewalk and lay down on the sidewalk, spread-eagled.
You can hear on the body-worn camera footage officers screaming, stop resisting, stop resisting.
Okay, get your hand behind you! Stop resisting! Get your hand! Stop resisting! Stop resisting! Okay,
He claimed that they beat him unnecessarily, and nobody believed him until that video from the nearby building came out.
Yeah, they're yelling stop resisting when he wasn't resisting at all. And it can be powerful to claim something's happening that the camera cannot see. It'd be like me telling you that under this desk I've got the thighs of a bodybuilder and an ass that won't quit, when the truth is I've got two perfectly average thighs and an ass that quits all the time. And that's not a one-off. A similar situation happened in the beating death of Tyree Nichols, where the audio on officers' body cams picked them up saying things like lay flat, only for another video to emerge showing him lying limp as an officer handcuffed him. The point is, there are immediately limits to what a camera can show you, but those limitations get even more acute when cops mute, obscure, or turn off their cameras, which happens, and sometimes on purpose. And that is something driven home by this incident, where a police captain who was arrested for drunk driving kept urgently trying to convey something to the officer who pulled him over.
You been drinking tonight?
I just got a ride.
You been drinking tonight, sir?
I'm a captain on the police department.
What police department?
Oklahoma City.
How much we had to drink tonight, sir?
Please.
Huh? I'm not turning my camera off.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a police captain whispering, turn your camera off, while simultaneously staring into it like a raccoon caught on a Ring doorbell. And it is genuinely hard to imagine a more embarrassing way to get arrested than that, which is saying something, because you just saw someone get handcuffed while dressed like a giant mouse. And look, it makes sense that these things have an off button. Cops need to be able to take a shit in peace like the rest of us, and some of the people they talk to might need their privacy protected too. That is why Connecticut, for instance, has a law that says they have to turn cameras off in cases like during an encounter with an undercover officer or informant, when an officer is on break or engaged in personal business, and when a person is undergoing a medical or psychological evaluation or treatment. But obviously, some critical interactions when people have been hurt or killed by police still go unrecorded. And while you might think, well, maybe the incident escalated suddenly and officers didn't have time to turn their cameras on, you should know most body cams are basically always in a standby mode in which the camera is powered on and rolling, but not yet permanently saving the footage. It's only when an officer presses record that the camera will begin saving footage to permanent memory. That saved clip then includes footage recorded for a predetermined amount of buffer time before the record button was pressed, which can range from 15 seconds to 2 minutes. So there's actually a meaningful amount of context that can get captured prior to an officer hitting record if that's something they're inclined to do. And yet oftentimes they just happen to be turned off during incidents of police violence. For example, even though the LAPD requires officers to turn on their cameras before any interaction with the public, nearly a fourth of its officers involved in incidents where serious force was used failed to activate them in a timely manner. And some unions and police officials are quick to excuse that sort of thing. For instance, not long after Houston rolled out body cams, 2 police officers shot a man near a gas station, but neither turned on their cameras until the incident was over. And this is how the police union's then president defended that.
This was the first real high-profile test of this department's body-worn camera policy. Pass or fail?
If the officer's primary responsibility was his safety, he passed. If his primary responsibility was videotaping the entire scene, he failed. If he was your cameraman and only had to worry about videotaping that, I would blame that cameraman for not getting it. But that's not his primary responsibility. His primary responsibility is to make sure he's safe and the public's safe.
Okay, but he did shoot someone. My cameraman gets footage and has never shot anyone. Well, doing this job at least. I don't know what Dante does during his off hours. That's his time. Also, activating a body camera isn't exactly an overwhelming task. We looked into it, and the process is: step 1, press the record button. Step 2, end of steps. But even if an officer does turn on their camera, and even if it shows what happened clearly, there's still the issue of what happens to all the footage. Because to be clear, there is an enormous amount of it. To give you a sense of scale, Axon, the nation's largest police camera provider, offers cloud storage for many of its clients' footage, and its database is more than 100 petabytes of footage, equivalent to more than 5,000 years of high-definition video, which is pretty wild, isn't it? Both that there is so much of it, and also that petabyte is a real unit of digital storage, and not what it sounds like, a snack food brand exclusively for pedophiles. Petabyte, have a snack, you fucking monster! And the thing is, most of that footage will never be watched by anyone, which is understandable. You know, it's impossible for agencies to look at every minute of footage from all these cameras, but far too often, even footage that documents misconduct isn't meaningfully reviewed, meaning departments miss opportunities to spot both problem officers and broader patterns of abuse. After the murder of George Floyd, it emerged that body cams had captured Derek Chauvin kneeling on the necks of others, including a handcuffed black woman and a 14-year-old black boy. In both those cases, supervisors had access to the recordings, yet cleared Chauvin's conduct. And when a state civil rights investigation later looked at 700 hours of body cam footage, it found Minneapolis cops repeatedly used neck restraints and concluded that if police or the city had conducted a substantive audit of the footage, they would have seen how often officers there were using neck restraints and could have taken steps to stop it. And clearly, someone should have done that. Because there's no point in the police just stacking up thousands of hours of footage that nobody's ever going to see, especially given that we all know that is Paramount Plus's job. Hey, what are they going to do? Take us over and immediately cancel us? I'm genuinely asking. So, internally, departments aren't reviewing their own footage nearly enough. And when it comes to public transparency, the results have been all over the map. And you might be thinking, well, why not just put all the footage out there for everyone to see? Well, the thing is, there are legitimate reasons not to do that. First, there are issues with how all that video could be fed into facial recognition systems, which we have talked about before. But also remember, body cams can show vulnerable or embarrassing moments, which can then be exploited for entertainment. And I know we've already showed you a couple of examples of that tonight. But we thought a lot about why we were doing that and how. In the mouse one, his face is covered. And in the police captain one, you might have noticed he was a police captain. But there are countless channels on YouTube that have made a business out of obtaining body cam footage of people in distress and which do feel like they're leaning into exploitation. One channel has videos called Entitled Lady Finally Gets What She Deserves and Buckle Up Kids Grandma's Drunk, which sounds like a kid's book written by Kathy Lee Gifford. Another channel has videos mainly of young women with titles like 19-year-old girl arrested for DUI at over double the limit after getting drunk at the beach, which is pretty grim. And by the way, we've blurred the faces there, but they don't do that. And it almost makes me think that YouTube as a whole might not have been worth it, offsetting its very real accomplishments like this video of a chihuahua riding a turtle, or this one of Kelsey Grammer falling off a stage, or this one of a sheep screaming like a human. Yeah, that might be the best thing ever posted to YouTube. And if you're thinking, John, what about the several hundred episodes of your show? I said what I said. Now, those channels often get videos through public records requests, but police departments can have a huge amount of leeway when it comes to what they release, as in most places, policymakers have defaulted to leaving them with the power to decide what's recorded, who can see it, and when. Just watch as a reporter asked Charlotte's then police chief how to reconcile his commitment to transparency with his department's refusal to release video of a police shooting.
You seem to get mixed messages here. On the one hand, you're saying we should have full transparency. On the other hand, you're saying you're not going to release the video. How can you square those two things? Obviously, the idea of full transparency is release the video so we can all see it.
Sure. I appreciate your passion, but I never said full transparency. I said transparency, and transparency is in the eye of the beholder.
Wait. Transparency is in the eye of the beholder? That is just fully nonsense. That sounds like the last thoughts of a pigeon that's about to smash into a closed window. And yet, that has been the de facto stance of many departments. For example, even though in 2020, the NYPD promised to release footage of critical incidents within 30 days, when ProPublica looked into it 3 years later, they found that out of 380 such incidents, the NYPD had released footage within a month just twice. And in South Carolina, when the police there had killed at least 19 people in 2023, they'd only released footage in 3 of those cases, with one department refusing a request by saying, "We never released that footage." And a popular argument police use is that making video public would undermine the integrity of an investigation. It's an excuse which works in almost every state in the country, even when there's rules for public access. They'll also argue that reviewing the footage and redacting sensitive information like juveniles' faces or witnesses' identities carries a prohibitive cost. In Las Vegas, police charged about $70 an hour to produce footage, while in Memphis, journalists have been asked to pay as much as $3,100 in hourly labour costs for video from a single case. And as one expert said, for a local news organisation, a bill for $2,000 might as well be a denial. Which does make sense, doesn't it? Because local news are known for a lot of things. Dedicated employees, probing investigations, inadvertently broadcasting massive dicks on their weather maps. But they're not famous for rolling in money. And even if footage gets released, it can be so heavily redacted, it's then essentially useless. For example, until last year, Tempe, Arizona's police department had a policy which mandated that all body cam footage they released would include a general medium blur. And just so you know, this is what their blurred footage looks like. And it is notable that when body cam footage shows officers in a bad light, they will often cite the cost and technical hurdles of redaction to not release it. But when it shows them in a good light, those problems seem to disappear. Just watch as a reporter in Texas confronts a police chief who was claiming that because they didn't have the ability to redact video themselves, they couldn't release a video of a police search during a traffic stop.
In the year 2024, why doesn't this department have software to redact videos?
It's really expensive for us to get.
Angleton Chief Lupe Valdez showed us a quote from their body cam vendor, more than $14,000.
Budget-wise, it's not in our budget to do that.
But there's this body cam video Angleton police released a few months ago of a crash where officers heroically pulled the driver out of the burning car. And look, portions are blurred.
How were you able to redact the video in that case?
We paid somebody to do that.
So let me get this straight. When your officers are heroes, you find a way to release it, but when your officers are scrutinized, you find a way to withhold it?
No, sir.
That's what happened here, Chief.
No, sir.
Yes, sir. That is exactly what happened. That interview could not have been any more embarrassing for that man, which is why I'm sure he'd prefer if we blurred him right now. But I'm not going to do that because, much like him, I only pay people to redact video when I fucking feel like it. But maybe no case illustrates the extent to which the mere presence of body cams isn't sufficient to prevent police violence or indeed bring accountability, more than that of Ronald Greene, a Louisiana man who died following an encounter with police in 2019. Officers initially told his family that he died on impact after crashing his car at the end of a chase with police. And even though there was body cam footage from officers on the scene, state officials, including the then governor, repeatedly refused to publicly release it for more than 2 years. In the end, someone wound up leaking the video to the AP, which is how people came to see a trooper wrestling Greene to the ground, putting him in a chokehold and punching him in the face. And I'm not going to show you the video of any of that, but I do think it's worth seeing one moment from one of the officer's body cams as he drove away from the scene.
I beat the ever-living fuck out of him, choked him and everything else trying to get him under control, and then all of a sudden he just went limp. Yeah, I thought he was dead. We set him up real quick. He's on the ambulance en route to Glenwood, and I'm hauling ass trying to catch up to him.
You think y'all got it on body cam?
Yeah. As soon as he was reminded his body camera was on, he turned it off. Which is pretty damning. It is honestly the panicked move of someone whose internal monologue was essentially just this. Yeah, exactly. Now, none of the 6 officers on the scene wound up facing much in the way of charges. The guy in that video actually wound up dying the following year in a car crash. As for the other 5, only 2 were convicted on any charges, and those were misdemeanors pled down, but charges against the other 3 were dismissed, and the DOJ dropped its criminal investigation, saying it had found insufficient evidence to support federal charges. But that might be because, even though there was body cam footage, the microphones weren't always on, and not all of the troopers at the scene had their cameras on during the arrest. And that does not seem like a coincidence, because the AP found state troopers there had made a habit of turning off or muting body cams during pursuits, that when footage is recorded, the agency routinely refused to release it, and that one supervisor in the department even told internal investigators that it was his common practice to rubber stamp officers' use of false reports without reviewing body cam video. And if you're not even going to watch the footage, why give your officers body cams at all? You might as well just let them hang a bologna sandwich off their shirt instead. It'll lead to exactly as much accountability, and they'll have a little meat snack in case they get hungry. And the truth is, if someone hadn't leaked that footage, we'd likely never have known about any of this. But hoping for leaks just cannot be the system here. So what do we do? Well, I would argue we have to take back the power from police departments to decide when and how to use body cams. Some agencies are transitioning to auto-triggering technologies, like sensors that switch them on when officers do things like draw their gun or exit their police car. Experts told us those aren't necessarily bad ideas, but they're likely to fall flat if they aren't combined with clear, enforceable rules stating the footage must be retained, routinely reviewed, and released in a timely manner, especially in critical incidents. One way of doing that is to have those rules enforced by an independent body free of police influence. And all of this is really worth bearing in mind during the current debate over requiring federal agents to wear body cams during immigration enforcement, because it's worth remembering a pretty important fact about the officers in the Alex Pretty shooting.
Customs and Border Protection officers involved in the deadly shooting were wearing body cameras. The agency says the footage is preserved, but it's unclear when or whether the public's going to see it.
Can I ask you a question? Why isn't it automatic that the body camera footage would eventually be released?
You'd think it would be. Here, though, the Trump administration has resisted cooperation with any investigation. And, George, remember that they've already drawn a conclusion that the shooting was justified.
Yeah, they still haven't released the body cam footage, kind of rendering that whole masks off, body cams on slogan pretty toothless, though, to be fair, I guess masks off, body cams on, and operating under clear guidelines about when footage is released and overseen by an independent body to ensure maximum transparency isn't quite as catchy, and if Chuck Schumer tries to say it, I think his head might explode. The point is, the reason we know what happened to Alex Pretty isn't because of body cams, it's because of all the other people with cell phones filming what happened. And that is going to need to continue. Because until we see significant changes, body cams will just never live up to their promise of shining a real light on misconduct. And if you need a visual metaphor for a light being shined on things, don't worry, because I have in my hand, and this may surprise you, a flashlight.